Something I was discussing with someone today that absolutely I just have a really hard time dealing with is this piece right here. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up because I think I need you to really take a look at it. Just a moment. Let's see. Okay, this is called the first joint stipulation regarding evidentiary matters. And I'm sure you have seen this before. I've discussed this before. And the funny thing is, I have a hard time getting over it. Okay, because I think you should understand how important this is. In the context of this Bridge Guy video release back in March, understanding that Judge Gull has not released that footage. Okay. With all of the questions around the geofencing, who was out there that day, whether the victims were out there at the time in the place and alive or dead, the photo of Abby on the bridge that mysteriously cannot be found, the Snapchats, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This becomes highly concerning. So I want to take a look. Okay. Again, this is first joint stipulations regarding evidentiary matters. And we're going to step through this extremely slowly because I want you to feel in your gut the concern over parts of this. Okay, comes now the state of Indiana, okay, by Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Stacy Diener, Richard Allen by counsel Brad Rozzi. Okay, so this is between Stacy Diener, representing the state, and Brad Rozzi, representing Allen. The parties having reached an agreement regarding the admissibility of certain items of potential evidence and matters related to the separation of witness order pertaining to the jury trial in this cause. The court now finds and orders as follows. The parties agree that the items referenced below shall be self-authenticated without the necessity of a witness verifying its origin, authenticity, or chain of custody. Okay, these items that we're going to discuss for the next 30 minutes, self-authenticated without the necessity of any verification of origin, authenticity, or chain of custody. The intention of this stipulation is to promote judicial economy throughout the course of the jury trial in this case. Now, that's your excuse. So for me, this sentence comes across as an excuse as to why this is being produced. Put that in the back of your mind. However, the parties do not agree to the specific admissibility or use of any item offered as evidence, as each party reserves the right to argue such pursuant to the applicable rules of evidence. Again, no verification of origin, authenticity, or chain of custody. All right. Now, as to be expected, you got to put something in. You got to book in this with stuff that makes sense. So that's what they do. They bookend this with something that could make sense. All in-cell video recordings of Richard Allen while at Westville or Wabash. Okay. All in-cell videos of Richard Allen while at Westville Correctional Facility or Wabash Valley Correctional Facility. Well, that's sensible, right? That makes sense. You would expect that they've got recordings of Richard Allen at Wabash and Westville, that it would be legit. Because how are they going to get footage of him in there if he's not in there and they haven't had cameras? So it starts off sensible, okay? Next, all video recordings of Richard Allen created through the use of a handheld camcorder utilized by the IDOC staff when Richard Allen was transported outside of his cell, unless said recordings include confidential communications between Richard Allen and his treating psychologist or psychiatrist. That's an interesting caveat, but once again, item number 3 here, well, technically item number 2, if there are videos of Richard Allen utilized by the IDOC staff from a handheld recorder, you would expect that that would be authentic. Okay? So they start the ball rolling here sensibly, is my point. But it's interesting here because then it starts to get a little squirrely. Okay? Let's move on to page 2. I'm sorry for this. All right. Page 2. All door sheet notes from inmate companions or correctional officers, so long as companion or officer is called as a witness and testifies at the trial in this cause. Well, that's also acceptable. Okay? All door sheet notes, so long as the person tied to the note is called as a witness and testifies. Number 5, all medical and or mental health records provided to the parties by Indiana DOC or its agents by way of discovery request in this case, so long as the author of the mental health record and its contents is called as a witness in the trial. So that also makes sense. And it kind of doesn't even make sense. You know, when it comes to the videos, the door sheets, the medical records, as long as someone is going to be witnessing to it, it kind of doesn't make sense what was said in paragraph 1, that these are going to be admitted without a witness verifying its origin, authenticity, or chain of custody. But I've said to you before, this is, okay, now we're done with the preface, right? Enough of that. Here's where it gets absolutely insane. And really, guys, I would hope that all of you in the chat and anyone watching could resonate with me on how absolutely insane this is, where we're going. So let's go back to paragraph 1. Okay. The parties agree that these items will be self-authenticated without the necessity of a witness verifying it to its origin, authenticity, or chain of custody. Origin, authenticity, or chain of custody. And this is where it's absolutely mind-blowing. Number 6. Okay, let's get you over there to page number 2. Number 6 here. Items collected at the crime scene. Let's read that again because this is real. This is real. Origin, authenticity, or chain of custody. Items collected at the crime scene where the victims were located. Question. That bullet, was the bullet collected at the crime scene? Was the bullet collected at the crime scene? That's all I'm saying. The bullet collected at the crime scene or any other items collected at the crime scene. Was the phone collected at the crime scene? Were the victim's clothes collected at the crime scene? You see what I'm getting at here? Origin, authenticity, or chain of custody? Clothes, phone, bullet. No one else finds that to be bizarre? That your defense for Richard Allen would agree to this? But it gets weirder. Number 7, items collected pursuant to the search warrant of 1967 Whiteman Drive, Delphi, Indiana, during the month of October 2022. Question: what items were collected at 1967 Whiteman Drive, Delphi, Indiana, during the month of October 2022? Another bullet in the keepsake chest, the gun, clothing of Richard Allen, all the phones of Richard Allen. Authenticity, origin, or chain of custody will not be questioned for anything out of Richard Allen's house, for anything from the crime scene. Number 8, all AT&T records, all AT&T records containing pings or other communications to and from any cellular towers in the area near the High Bridge on February 13th or 14th, 2017. So whoa. That's your cast data, isn't it? That's all of your AT&T records containing pings to and from any towers near the High Bridge on the 13th and 14th. How about number 9? All AT&T cell phone records for Liberty German's cell phone from February 13th and February 14th, 2017. All AT&T records for any phone in the geofencing and the tower dumps and the cast data. All phone records for Liberty German's cell phone. And even though this would be included based on paragraph 1, which stated all items referenced below shall be self-authenticated without the necessity of a witness verifying origin, authenticity, or chain of custody. They double down here. Okay, now this is important to me. Number 10, the chain of custody for Liberty German's phone. So they've already covered Liberty German's phone in the items found at the crime scene. That was paragraph 6. They already covered Liberty's phone in paragraph 8. All AT&T records containing pings or other communications to and from any tower near the High Bridge. They've already covered the cell records for Liberty's phone in paragraph 9. And now in paragraph 10, they're tripling, quadrupling down on the phone, saying the chain of custody for the phone. And number 11, which they covered in item number 7 here, regarding the items collected pursuant to the search warrant of 1967 Whiteman Drive, which was Richard Allen's search warrant, where the gun was obtained. They go further in paragraph 11 and double, triple down on it as the chain of custody for the firearms tested by Melissa Oberg. You see, do you see why I would be mind blown that any attorney would agree to this? And then number 12 doubles down, and number 12 and 13 on the extractions of Liberty's phone. Look at this, 12 and 13. Electronic extractions done by Brian Bunner, including the extraction of Liberty German's phone, which would include what? The video from the phone. Now remember, what I'm discussing tonight is full circle. Full circle. We're discussing what happened in March 12th. The video from Liberty German's phone was leaked and still has not been released by the judge. And number 13, electronic extractions done by Christopher Cecil, including all appendices and reports for said electronic devices. And number 14, extraction of Derek German's phone. And you say, well, Prof, surely you must be crazy. Surely you must be crazy. They're not going to authenticate the authenticity, the chain of custody, or the, what was number one here? Origin. So they're not going to check out the origin of anything from Derek German, the chain of custody, the extraction, there anything regarding any phone in the geofencing or in the tower dumps or in anything that was pinged, and anything to do with Liberty German's phone or anything at the crime scene, including the clothing and the bullets. But it gets worse. It does get worse. Let me draw your attention to the next page here. Page 3 is item number 15, Hoosier Harvestore video. That's right. Hoosier Harvestore video collected by the FBI with affidavit from FBI Special Agent Jeff Robertson with collection paperwork that was generated when the video was collected. Okay. So now, no question about the origin, the authenticity, or the chain of custody over the Harvestore video. All right. And like any good gaslight, they bookend it with another innocuous thing. Remember, I said they started off, when they bookend this at the beginning, they started off with the video of Richard Allen in Westville and Wabash. No big deal. Well, same thing, the way they bookend this at the end, they bookend it with Becky Patty, Mike Patty, Anna Williams, Kathy Allen, Janice Allen, and Jamie Jones shall be excluded from the separation of witness order issued pursuant to Rule 615 of the Indiana Rules of Evidence, such that all of these individuals shall be permitted to attend the jury trial without being excluded as a fact rebuttal witness in this cause. Okay, so that's easy peasy. It's just bookending it with something you won't wonder about. Okay, just like they bookended it on the front side with the videos of Richard Allen at Westville and the door sheets and medical records. But like I said, when you're looking at numbers 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, it's inconceivable that you would not retain the right to challenge the authenticity, the chain of custody, or the origin of anything at the crime scene, including the clothes, including the phone, including the bullet, anything at Richard Allen's house, including the bullet, including the gun, including his clothes, or anything from the phones, any of the phones, especially Liberty German's phone. Why would the defense agree to this? Did Andy Baldwin and Brad Rossi not realize the complexity of the Delphi case? It's odd because you would assume that when they took the case, maybe they didn't. Okay, maybe when they initially accepted the assignment, maybe they didn't realize the gravity of the Delphi murders case and the contradictions and all the complexity. But let me draw your attention again. I'm sorry to do this because I know I pulled it down, but look at the date that's signed. First day of trial. This was first day of trial, October 18th, 2024. October 18th. By October 18th, 2024, first day of trial, there's no excuse for the defense counsel to not, by the first day of trial, understand the complexity, the gravity, and the enormity of this case. Especially when they had already become aware of the fact that there's 70 days of missing interviews, there's missing evidence, and there's a bunch of contradictions from all of the witnesses. So someone help me understand. Please, please, please help me understand why in the world they would ever agree to this joint stipulation. Chain of custody, authenticity, or origin? I mean, Harvestore, Liberty German, bullet, gun, tower dumps, geofencing. Sounds like the entire case to me. Not challenging the origin of any evidence in the entire case, the authenticity of any evidence in the entire case, the clothing as well. I mean, you remember me saying that I thought that those clothes were just thrown in the Deer Creek after the murders? Someone got those clothes out of a trunk and went and threw them in the creek. Remember me saying that I felt those bullets were planted, both the one at the crime scene and the one in Richard Allen's keepsake chest? Remember I said, and many people have said for years, that that phone was planted, Liberty's phone planted there with faked evidence on the phone, under the body, left there to be discovered? So you're not challenging the clothes, which could have been thrown there as a distraction, planted. You're not challenging anything at the crime scene, which could have been planted, anything at Richard Allen's, which could have been planted, anything on Liberty's phone, which could have been planted. Not challenge the origin, not challenge the authenticity, and not challenge the chain of custody. We know these fuckers fucked up the chain of custody in so many ways. That is a known fact by the insiders. And if this was all done, I made this, I know this is going to be a flippant, smart ass comment, but if this was all done in the, let's look at it again so I can make this point. Here we go. It says, judicial economy. Look at paragraph number 1. Paragraph number 1. The intention of this stipulation is to promote judicial economy. Remember how I said that's the excuse they give for agreeing to this? The excuse they've given for agreeing to this is judicial economy, promoting judicial economy. Well, hey, if that's the case, why would you rest a week early? That's judicial economy as fuck. Resting a week early. How economical do we have to be with the judiciary here? How many months did Karen Reed? How many months did she eat up the court system in her 2 fucking trials? Delphi couldn't even get a whole month. And like I said, if Baldwin and Rozzi did not understand the gravity of this case when they were assigned to Richard Allen, they should have figured it out by the first day of trial. I know personally, I was sitting here 4 or 5 days a week doing live after live after live after live in hopes to get their attention and shake them up and make them concerned about some of the lies and anomalies and things that have been said in this community, like Tina Rodell's daughter stabbing a girl in the neck to see what it feels like. And then I get wind of the fact that no, they never watched any YouTube. They didn't know what the fuck was going on YouTube at all. They actually don't know shit about the case whatsoever. They had no idea of all the social media chatter for the first 5 years on the case. And all of that was going on in the year or 2 leading up to trial. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Listen, I don't want to point the fingers towards the defense in this case, but these are questions that have to be asked. They're highly concerning. They are highly concerning. And then to have a guy on the team who helped Doug Carter with his campaign for sheriff, who was a fire chief of Carmel, Indiana, which is where Doug Carter became sheriff in Hamilton County, who's tied to law enforcement, deeply entrenched on the defense team. We sat here for thousands of hours going through every single screenshot from the community of Delphi for 7 years leading up to trial. That's why I don't ask you to go watch other channels. Whenever these other channels are giving you half truths, they're giving you good information mixed with disinformation, which makes a whole bad batch of information for consumers. People go over to these channels and they watch all those rehashed receipts mixed in. There's disinformation. And I say, well, why would you go do that? On my channel right now, there's 350 live streams full of all of the shit that's already been fact checked and authenticated. You know, why did the defense not take advantage of that resource? We all know that the discovery had been sanitized before it was handed over to the defense team. They weren't gonna find anything in discovery of value. It had already been sanitized. There was a whole lot of information that was not sanitized that was out here in the public domain, open source. I believe they would admit now that they should have had someone investigating this open source material, but they didn't. Anyhow, I wanted to go through those concerns as a way to start tonight's show because it's been irking me. It's been irking me. It's really been irking me. Because you have to understand, you've got controlled opposition, you've got opposition, I'm sorry, you've got prosecution that was controlled. And those are your voices that you already know, the troll farm, all of the troll farm creators, Murder Sheet, and the like. And then you've got controlled opposition, all of the people that had their claws in the defense. So, anyway, I'd like to, now I'm inviting whoever would like to come discuss as we move on. This is just food for thought. And I brought it up because it in a conversation this morning, it came back around and it made me a little bothered again because it's like been nagging at me for a while. Um, anyway, I want to thank. Let's see, we had Jamie Boyd with a super chat. I appreciate all you have done and do, brother. God bless you and family. Thank you, Jamie. We had David Rogers with the super chat. Thanks, Prof, for all you provide here. Thank you. And we had Rebecca Ann. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Rebecca Ann. Um, it's a big bother to me. I mean, because I got to tell you, I mean, I've said this so many times before on my show, but maybe there's someone new here who hasn't heard me say it before. But I've been bothered by the whole thing with Libby's phone for ages, for ages. Literally, since I first discovered the case and started looking into it, I've been bothered by this alleged Snapchat bullshit and anything to do with Libby's phone and the bridge guy video, the bridge guy in general, the weirdness, and now we got a an entire collection of evidence that was admitted to this trial that was not verified, authenticated, confirmed. Its origin wasn't confirmed. Um, it's bothersome because there are those of us who for years been saying they faked evidence. The Snapchat is photoshopped. The bridge guy is photoshopped. There's something wrong. There's weirdness in the audio. There's weirdness in the video. We're not sure the girls were there that day. We don't have any proof they were there that day. And then what do we get? We get nothing substantial. And you got your creators who have studied this media for years saying, no, it looks Photoshopped. We got Photoshop experts who have studied this Abby on the bridge photo saying, no, it's Photoshopped 100%. You've got witnesses. Remember these witnesses. And I've said ever since I stepped my foot on this case, I said the witnesses all lied. Well, you've got witnesses who are all acting strange, very bizarre. They cannot identify Richard Allen as the one who was on the bridge that day. They cannot identify that Richard Allen was the one they intended to portray in the sketches. Then you've got a judge who does not let the sketches in so that the witnesses can be questioned about the sketches. And no one in the courtroom asks the witnesses if Richard Allen is the individual they saw that day. The witness statements themselves contradict each other. You see what I mean? It's when me and my followers from the beginning were in our Discord and we were going piece by piece through all of this evidence, and we were saying none of this makes sense. None of it. And have you forgotten about Chris Mathis and Garrett Kurtz and Tina Rodell and Megan Allen and that whole contingent of what they all were saying? Chris Mathis and Garrett Kurtz were speaking as if they were involved or had knowledge of the situation. Tina Rodell and Megan Allen were talking like they were involved in the situation, like she was involved in the situation with this whole group of Kokomo crew guys. Keegan Kline told everybody that he was out there that day. As I mentioned, we are absolutely certain there was a secondary crime scene. Where is it? You know what my candidate is? It was Wilson Bridge. It was the Mears property. When I analyze this, break it down to the bare bones, it's the Mears property. This all took place on the Mears property at a secondary crime scene. None of that questioned. And you've got Gray Hughes, who comes from a PR organization, brought into this case. He develops the entire theory of the case, the timeline, the series of events, the chasing the girls across the creek, blah, 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 blah. Nick McClelland runs with that story verbatim, including the lingering for a moment. Remember, they go down the hill, they linger there for a moment, get spooked by the white van, allegedly, go across the rushing creek that was 2 foot higher than normal, rushing and freezing, somehow come out of there without leaving any marks, but then freezing cold and spooked by a van that had just rolled up that's at that Weber property at an elevated position looking right down on the crime scene. He stays there forever, has the girls undressed, does whatever, kills them, leaves no defensive wounds, and then somehow makes one of them redress and then gets out of there without being seen, without leaving any forensic evidence in his car, and never gets rid of the car, never gets rid of the gun. Yeah, it's too much. It's too much. But as I mentioned, they do this post sentencing press conference and say, do not question the family, do not file an appeal, do not look at the crime scene photos. I'd walk over hot shards of Jerry Holman, who is not a liar. Then Doug Carter writes the preface to the book that Murder Sheet produces, telling this whole story the way they want it told. In the meantime, Ron Logan and Keegan Kline tell Reese Davis they were involved in it with specific detail. In specific detail, they say what happened to the girls, to Reese. But everyone, they go to Crime Con, they get the awards, they double down on the We Are the Heroes, and everyone's supposed to just forget about it all. And you're supposed to forget about the dozens of plants on the case, those who are controlling the narrative. Like I said, across social media, it's not just here on YouTube. For years, they've controlled every aspect of this narrative on the case, on Reddit, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook. Clearly, you all have had the opportunity to witness those bad actors at work. Anyhow, that's my speech for tonight. I would like to, like I said, I put the StreamYard link up if someone wants to take the invitation to come and introduce yourself to the community. I really wish that you would. This is our Meet the Community open lines time. And so many of you I have spoken with on the phone multiple times. Your voices are needed. All right. Well, I'll be waiting for you. Let me remind you all that I have a GoFundMe. I don't know if I can actually, I wanted to share it here. I have a GoFundMe. Please support the channel in order to keep me headed in the right direction and able to do this, because this takes up a lot of time. I would appreciate as much support as possible if you're able to. I have a GoFundMe that for some reason, I have to go and copy the link. I'm not able to paste it all of a sudden. But I have a GoFundMe, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, all the support pathways. Please support the channel, but especially my GoFundMe right now. I'm trying to get up to my first goal, and we're halfway there. So please help me get to the goal on the GoFundMe. Mm. And I'll read some comments, because if no one comes and join, we'll be getting out of here. Let's see, we got Ninja Warrior Assassin, Dirty Diana, Andre, Pie Crust, Quadaxo Mimi, Heather Brown, Sweet Dude Shibby, Pertinent, Critter Mama, Miss K, Willow Fox, Dieter, Fabby Lash, Oh Hey Christina, Carla Ann's here, Swade Smith, how you doing? Nicole Watt, David Rogers, Rebecca Ann, Fabby Lash, Mino Dino, Willow Fox, Andre. Who else is in here? Critter Mama. Right. But in the context of all of this, you've seen a handful of individuals get harassed to shit. Unbelievably. I know that many of you have witnessed it. There have been a handful who have been harassed to shit. You wouldn't believe it. Thank you, Ninja Warrior Assassin. And what's with all the harassment? If we are if we were so irrelevant, wrong, stupid, unimportant, what's with all the harassment? And I don't mean debating or arguing the points that have been made. I mean the literal harassment, the personal attacks. What's up with the personal attacks? The personal attacks like this. Rick Snay, okay? Uh, his daughter? Really? His marriage? Really? His personal life, his job? Really? Same with me? Really? Noe's court proceedings? Really? What about Amy G here? Amy G was here earlier. Amy G? Really? There is in light in the dark. What? Why harass? What has she done? Harassment. Personal life. Things showing up at our houses. Things showing up at our kids' houses. False reports into the police. Why? Hundreds upon hundreds of lies, smears, post videos over and over and over and over and over again. Why? If we are all so wrong, it's funny because I told someone today, I've not deleted one live stream, at least not in the last couple years. So the first 60, 70 live streams, I deleted them because I was smoking and whatever. The audio was bad because I had not gotten a microphone and all the stuff yet. So yeah, the first, few dozen of lives I did delete or made private. They're not gone. They're just privated. I privated them because the lighting wasn't good, the sound wasn't good, I was smoking. This was all so long ago that we really weren't even talking about the proceedings with Richard Allen yet. But I have not deleted a single video since Richard Allen's arrest. Every live I've done for the past 2 years is still right here. Every word, every screenshot, every comment in the comment section, every chat in the live chats, everything's still here. Haven't deleted a thing because I haven't lied. I haven't misrepresented. I haven't had to make anything disappear. You can't say that about everyone's channels. But yeah, so this is what I'm saying to you guys. We need more of you. I truly mean it. Okay. This community needs more of you to let your voices be heard. I really, really, really encourage you. The thing they've counted on is there not being more people step forward and express themselves loudly with their voices. They're counting on your silence. And they're counting on just being a few of us here using our voices. Myself, Rick, and if 10 of you would come forward and regularly start speaking, it would make a huge difference. If 20 of you would come forward and start using your voices, it would make a huge difference. It really would. And I encourage you to. I truly do. It's not the easiest. You might get doxxed. You might get harassed. You might get shit in your mailbox, but you'll make it. Um, your voices are needed. They are because we don't know necessarily what's going on here. It's very complex. It's very complex. There are so many voices that are controlled. We need independent voices. That's the call that I'm making, I guess. What we need are independent voices, which are your voices. We need more independent voices to step in and use their voices. Uh, and it's just the bottom line that I've noticed. It's the independent voices that get the harassment because you are the threat. So, as I mentioned, I'm going to be doing less and less Delphi because it's too hard. We're all by ourselves, and there's no point in rehashing the same old thing over and over and over, especially when it's already sitting here in the channel, already done that, and others have already done it. So, so I haven't been watching the chat. Let me take a look at what's going on. But thank you, Ninja Warrior Assassin, for the chat, super chat. Fabulash says tobacco. What are you talking about? Tobacco. Okay. I wish everyone concerned about the truth and justice would come together. Well, you have to ask yourself why they're not. Why they're not. I want to address another thing while I'm here, just spinning my thumbs waiting for someone. Flora, because this consistently bothers me. As I've said, I always look at whatever narrative they're pushing really hard on to indicate to me that the opposite might be true. So there's this thing about, is there some connection to Flora where you had four little girls lose their lives in a fire? So if you were to sit back and look at this objectively, you say, hey, well, maybe there Maybe there doesn't have to be a connection. The connection could be locality, period. The connection could be locality. That could be the only connection. That's what an objective person sitting back from afar would say, because maybe it's just the location that connects them. But it's not that simple, because then you start to see that there are individuals who connect the two. Individuals like Becky Patty, Josh Ayers, okay? Then you get, and Dennis Randall. And then you get to looking at those connected to those individuals. So not only do you have a locality that's connecting them and a time frame, but now you have a whole group of individuals connecting them. And then, like I said, the final straw is deduction. When you look at what these people are pushing, that they're not connected. And by that, I mean the absolute worst, most aggressive plants are narrative controllers. When they're pushing so hard on the fact that they are not connected, then logical deduction, you'd say they must be connected, because why else would these people try to push so hard the narrative that they're not connected? And it's another thing that I'm pointing towards, observing the fruit of their labors. Look at what they do, okay? Look at their actions. When you're looking at everyone in the community, you want to figure out who the plants are or who the controllers are. You start looking around at the actions of people. Who's being dishonest? Who's coming in with narrative pushing? And remember, I said the other day, a narrative push doesn't have to be a hard push. Sometimes it's just a nudge. And that slight nudge is enough to get it off course. But you look at the people who are pushing the narratives, who are lying to you, who are manipulating, who are coming with some agenda to convince you of certain points, or to straight up harass the people who are somehow hovering over the target. And if you look closely enough, you might start seeing patterns. And those patterns start to show you, oh, well, yeah, why is that person doing that? Why freak the fuck out? Every time Prof says something important, you freak the fuck out. Why? You know, what I mean by that is acting out of character. So you've got someone who's got a certain character. Prof says something, whatever, something new. Suddenly, this person starts acting way out of character, starts flipping out. Those are the signs that there's something wrong here. And trust me, in Delphi, there's a lot wrong. There's a lot wrong. You've got dozens of people, dozens. Um, and it just makes no sense. It makes no sense why that would ever be the case with the murders of two little girls, unless it's connected to something bigger. And I guess that's my ultimate conclusion. It's connected to something bigger, which would it would it would it would come to be expected that you would see this if it's connected to something bigger, which is it's the result of simple deduction. Why else would you have all of this over two little girls? I mean, there's girls all the time. There's little girls all the time. How many murders this month, this year, this for past 5 years. How many murders since Abby and Libby in Indiana of kids? Do you see all that for them? You see it for Delphi because it's connected to something bigger. It has to be. It's the only reason you'd see it. And that's called common sense.